Ed from Plaid, and this is Will Dutta. We've recently collaborated on an album together, which we've finally got the final product in the last couple of days.
Yeah, it's been about 3.5 years in the making. 3.5 years in the making. So yeah, it's nice to have a physical thing at the end of it to signify the end. So do you want to talk a little bit about just how we made? We did 2 tracks, so Distance and Overcolour. Overcolour is kind of almost feels like that's the centerpiece of the album. That's sort of carries with it that it's the biggest piece. So it's like an epic, almost 16 minutes, isn't it? I don't think we just knew when to stop. So it's I think it's like the backbone of the album, definitely. So I guess we could talk about how we started that.
Well, bells have featured quite heavily, and throughout Plaid's lifetime, we've always come back to bells, and I don't know why I keep coming back to them. There's something about bells I find very attractive. But actually, on Overcolour, I tried to do a different type of bell. I used some software to make physical modelling bells, which effectively means each time you hear it hit, it's the computer is doing the maths to work out the acoustics of a physically struck bell. So it's using algorithms that work out the various vibrations that are happening on a surface. So that was something that I really developed at Overcolour. In the end, it's quite immersed in the mix because we added so many layers to it. But that was a real something that was specifically done for that, and actually I'm glad I did, because I think.
And Distance, we did for a show at Cafe Otto, didn't we?
Yeah, Distance has existed probably for about 4 years now, in some form or another, and then it's evolved and it became yours. Yeah, you decided to write some piano over it. But yeah, it's almost 2 years ago exactly that we started the collaboration in Snape.
That's right. Yeah, went up to Aldborough, which was great. An amazing. It was like a kiln, wasn't it? Like a giant kiln.
Yeah.
And that was like 4 days up there, just space to write. And it's interesting because you let me write like obviously real time piano. You play it, you get to generate some ideas, and I just seem to remember that it would sort of spend an hour or two then generating the electronics.
Well, it's that thing about composition, it being non-real time. A lot of if I had an instrument I could play, then there is always the potential to jam. But with electronic music, it's a non-real time process a lot of the time. I have a mouse and a keyboard to play with. So yeah, I think remembering back, you would play something, I would record it. Then I would have a play on top. So
I would read my book first.
You'd have to keep busy for an hour or so while I did some processing and some writing. And on paper it sounds like a torturous process, but actually it works relatively well, because during the hour that I'm doing my fiddling, you can carry on.
No, it was. I think the main theme of it definitely came away with. I think we recorded like an early version or the beginning. It has changed, but not. It's just been like layered upon rather than the actual thing being changed. So it's that was definitely the most useful week to get the process started.
Yeah, we got the core ideas for Overcolour done in those 4 days.
Yeah. But we first met at Scala, that show. The premiere of the Concerto for Turntables and Orchestra by Gabriel Prokofiev, and you and Andy did the second half. It was Tekken Kingry, like arrangements, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like four or five, wasn't it? Or 3 or 4?
I think 4. Yeah, we were very lucky to have versions played by the Heritage.
Yeah, the Heritage Orchestra, and it was. Yeah, it was good. That was a really good kind of way to meet. I think I then pestered you for about, I'd like to say 6 months, but it's probably about a year.
Well, I think when I first met you, I didn't realise that you were a pianist and a musician. Your job on that was very much you were organising and helping promote the event and making sure it happened. So I was actually quite surprised when you said, "Yes, I'm a pianist and let's do some work together."
That we did. Well, we've been working on. I think a key thing is just how to realise the show, the live set, not to be a direct kind of copy or recreation of the album. Ultimately, on record, you can produce things so tightly, can't you? Whereas live, you sort of have to think of it in a slightly different way. So I think a lot of it's going to be about how we set that up.
Yeah.
Already looking at sort of expanding the players in the live show, possibly using percussionists, and sort of sound design around that. It's almost like maybe thinning out some of the production sort of on the record, just because I think if you want that sort of live, well, for the area that I'll be performing in, which I guess is sort of maybe concert hall sort of based, I think you want to see, people like to see how the sound is being generated.
Yeah.
I think that's a fundamental thing. People just want to go, oh yeah, that's happening there. So I think it'll be developing that part of the show. So
I think allowing for a little bit of improvisation as well is always good if you can rework even just a bit so that there is something unique for each performance is the ideal. But just the fact that you're playing it live means there will always be variation.
There's always going to be a different mistake in each performance. So,
I think for it to sound exactly like the album is always a bit upsetting when you go and hear something, unless you absolutely love the album so much and it's an exact replica. I think to inject something new is why really.
So I think the first show the launch is going to be the 20th of June at the BA5 in the Blue Room, and then from there, hopefully the world.